So it's been 2 months since I first got my hands on the Galaxy Tab S10 Ultra, Samsung's third iteration of their mega-sized tablet. In this video, I want to share with you some of the new experiences I've had with my Tab S10 Ultra from an average day-to-day user's perspective after a couple months of use, show you how it stacks up against the smaller Tab S10 Plus, and how it compares to my experiences with the S9 and S8 Ultra, and lastly share some insight on whether or not the Ultra is worthy for you to consider given its ultra-high price point. Let's get started. Starting with price. At the time of this video, while the Tab S10 Ultra retails for an ultra-high price of $1,200, Samsung is offering what I think is their best deal of any Ultra tab yet, which is $200 off in addition to trading in any tablet for an additional $300 off, making this a much more reasonably priced tablet at $700 or less depending on what you trade in, so be sure to check out the links in the description for Samsung's latest deals. In exchange for the price you end up paying, you are getting what is honestly a very similar tablet to last year's S9 Ultra, so much to the point that I'd say this is the least year-over-year change I have ever seen on any Samsung device. But even with that said, as an avid Ultra tablet user at this point, the single defining difference between these two has still been enough for me personally to opt for this newer S10 Ultra, that difference being the new anti-reflective display. I cannot understate how big of a difference this makes in my average day-to-day use of this enormous 14.6-inch screen, which in my well-lit office always has some amount of light bouncing off the tablet and a near guarantee of reflections of my hands and face distracting me from my content and forcing me to max out the brightness whenever I use my Ultra S9 in the daytime, whereas the now anti-reflective S10 Ultra does an amazing job of cutting out reflections, most notably at lower brightness levels, as shown here with both of these tablets set to about 30% brightness. I also often have my ceiling fan on during the day, and this creates constant distractions on my S9, whereas my S10 eliminates these distractions almost entirely without affecting the display quality, which is important to mention since I know that is everyone's main concern and argument against anti-glare displays these days, which is valid in some cases. Like on my iPad Pro with the new nano texture display, I can notice grainier text and a less vibrant OLED screen, meaning I need to have my iPad running at 75 to 100% brightness at all times in the day to get the best experience out of it, whereas my S10 Ultra can be comfortably used in a similar setting, sitting at around 30 to 50% brightness. You can see here that the iPad has much more of a matte finish, and the S10 looks to simply have a anti-reflective coating, which to my eye does not impact the clarity of text or colors on the display when looking at it side by side with my S9 Ultra. So even though it is one of the only defining differences that distinguishes this S10 Ultra from my S9 and S8, it has made a huge difference for me in my average daily use so far in my first couple months, and it's something that helps me to more comfortably use this tablet in a lot of different environments, which the Ultra's high amount of versatility is what makes it such a compelling device for me in the first place. Now, everything I shared in my S9 Ultra review from last year still rings true here with the S10. The laptop-like screen size alongside very good software that complements the massive display makes this the device I'm reaching for more than anything else these days. While the software is no different than any other Samsung phone or tablet you may already be familiar with, I find that multitasking is the most clear advantage when opting for this Ultra tab over even the respectably sized 12.4-inch Tab S10 Plus, which is still a big tablet in today's market. Yet after using the Ultra, I find myself unable to switch back to any smaller size, as using multiple apps at once is much more feasible with the larger display in the conventional tablet mode, where you can have 3 apps open side by side in addition to a floating window, and switching to Samsung DeX makes this feel like I'm using a laptop in a form factor that is a lot more versatile than a laptop. There is less time spent resizing windows to try and make use of every amount of space I have on my tablet, and more time spent quickly opening apps, throwing them wherever I want to with room to spare, and getting right to work, which boosts my productivity. Oftentimes, I also have enough screen space to keep the digital keyboard on the screen, which I find to be helpful, opposed to the standard keyboard filling half of my screen whenever I want to type something. When it comes to more intensive typing sessions, the official keyboard cover does an excellent job of making this Ultra tab feel like a laptop replacement with a full-size keyboard and respectably sized trackpad. Scrolling is very smooth and responsive with the 120Hz refresh rate. Navigations and gestures all work great, and the typing experience experience on this keyboard is still my personal favorite out of any mobile device with a keyboard to go with it, as the combination of backlit keys, good enough key travel, and the lack of any wrist fatigue you'd find when typing on any laptop makes this my go-to choice for writing scripts or longer journal entries. And the cherry on top is simply detaching the keyboard whenever you don't need it, and this is what wins me over the most on the Ultra tabs over anything else, since the back plate then stays on the tablet all the time, and it's so easy to prop this tablet up and use it anywhere without the keyboard making it unnecessarily bulky, which I think hurts tablets like the iPad Pro. Even though it has a very nice premium keyboard attachment, you have to either fully commit to the case and carry around a keyboard all the time, or have nothing at all attached and not as much versatility to then prop up the device more portably. Now, of course, the Tab S10 Ultra is a bit less portable than other larger tablets on the market, like the aforementioned 13-inch iPad Pro and the new Surface Pro, which both have OLED displays now, which definitely makes them noteworthy competitors to this S10 Ultra, but the superior aspect ratio is once again winning me over, as watching content on the Ultra feels like you have a TV in your face, whereas the black bars on my iPad Pro become very apparent in comparison, and overall the larger 14.6-inch screen just feels better whether juggling countless apps or simply watching some content, making this a more ideal overall device if doing both work and play on your device is important to you. Playing games is very enjoyable for me on the S10 Ultra, with my emulated games running very smoothly on the device, nearly identical to that of my S9 Ultra from last year. This tablet is packed with the Dimensity 9300 Plus chipset, and after 2 months of use, I can confidently say that this chip is running identically for me in my use cases. And for whatever it's worth, I actually had problems running this game on my S8 Ultra packed with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor, so I can confirm a noticeable processor bump here. And at this point, I'd steer clear of the S8 Ultra and keep your focus on the S9 or S10 Ultra for the best performing device. And this is also the case when it comes to the battery life, since I can get noticeably better battery life on my S10 over my S8. On the latest software on both devices, I got 5 hours of screen on time over the course of 2 days on my S8 Ultra, whereas my S10 comfortably gets me 7.5 hours of screen time over 2 to 4 days of use, and use cases of 8 to 9 hours of screen on time happened pretty consistently for me as well, as you can see from the screenshots shown here after 10 or so battery cycles over the past couple months. But anything else that hasn't been mentioned has continued to remain unchanged. For the Ultra Tab series, the cameras are still identical with a dual lens setup on both the front and back. I personally took a grand total of 2 pictures with the rear facing camera so far, and pictures appear to be fine, nothing spectacular here. However, the front facing camera has a very nice wide angle lens that films in 4K resolution. However, it is capped to 30 frames no matter what resolution you film in, which leaves me wishing there was an option for 60 frames. The haptics still don't feel or sound great to me in my opinion, especially for a tablet with Ultra in the naming. Have a listen for yourself. The official water and dust resistance ratings on this tablet and S Pen are still greatly appreciated, which I now realized I never even mentioned the S Pen this entire video. I absolutely love using the S Pen alongside this Ultra Tab, whether it's for navigating around Samsung decks or writing or drawing on what feels like an oversized sheet of paper. The quad speaker setup is excellent on this tablet. It looks like the AKG branding and tuning is no longer a thing on Samsung's tablets, but the speakers still sound very similar to my ear in my side-by-side testing. And as you've probably already seen in a comment, we still have a notch on top, but it's far less noticeable compared to something like a MacBook notch for a point of comparison. And one more very small change is Samsung releasing a new keyboard case this year with a Galaxy AI key to access your AI assistant of choice. However, you can just hold down the power button to access these, or just set up a keyboard shortcut on the S9 Ultra keyboard case to get the same result. So I would recommend finding a S9 Ultra book cover keyboard for a much more reasonable price than the $350 Samsung charges for the new one, as I'm using my S9 Ultra case perfectly fine without any issues on my S10 Ultra. But overall, after 2 months of daily use with the new Tab S10 Ultra and lots of time spent with the previous iterations, Samsung's alternatives, and other options on the market, I can highly recommend the Tab S10 Ultra to anyone watching this video who can bear the high price tag. While it has barely changed over last year's S9 and performs identically for me, the anti-reflective display is enough for me to make the switch to this S10 given the nature of this tablet's size and ability to always pick up reflections in my well-lit office environment, and sometimes using the device outdoors. But I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on the S10 Ultra. Leave a like on your way out, and take care.